Hello. Hello, everybody. Welcome on a Thursday. A filthy Thursday, state of Georgia. Got a great show lined up for you today. Later on in the show, Owen Benjamin has a new special out. It must be nice. He's a again, I don't think he likes the term controversial, but I mean, you are what you fucking are. It's not, when I hear that, I'm interested. Sam Kinison was controversial. Richard Pryor was controversial. Bill Hicks was controversial. Fucking, you know who? Phyllis Diller. Ruth Buzzy. All the great ones. Diane Carroll. She wasn't even a comedian. She was a nice black lady who had a show. But we'll have Owen on in a few minutes. Great interview, as you would expect. But first, ladies and gentlemen, I don't know if you saw the Bret Baier versus Kamala Harris interview, which, boy, did she not do herself any favors by wandering into the lion's den, which is this. We don't even have a right-wing outlet, to be honest with you. I know these people, and I still like Fox. People can badmouth it all they want. To me, they make a more concerted effort. But people would say, you're fucking nuts. And, oh, really? Have you watched MSNBC or whatever the fuck? So we all know she's done nothing as far as she did Howard Stern. She did Who's Your Daddy or some fucking podcast like that. Literally. I'm not making this shit up. They've been hiding her in plain sight. At least Biden, they had they were honest. They go, we're putting Grampy in the basement. This broad, so this is the first time she's going to face anybody since, she became leader after the coup. It's the first time she's going to face a legitimate journalist who's going to ask her a tough question and maybe some follow-up questions. But she shows who she really is and how entitled that she is. It's so obvious that she lives in a cocoon with other people that think like, I think this was disastrous for her, and I'm not just saying that because I hope it was. So what's this, about 2-3 minutes?
Under two.
Under two?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm going to show you this. It's not so much what she says, which is always horseshit. We always know that's going to be bullshit. She pivots to Donald Trump. Well, you won't get a feel for her because we're not showing you the whole thing. But somebody put a mashup together. How many times he asked a question, she pivoted to, but Donald Trump, it was, I'm not shitting you, 30-something times. It's so fucking embarrassing. And she showed up late, by the way.
15 minutes late.
Was it 15? Even black guys make it 10 sometimes. Oh, wait, she is black. What am I saying? 15 minutes. The Indian, it would have been 30, but she's got some Indian. Anyhow, it's not so much her answers, because like I said, that's all bullshit, and we know that. But her nose gets bent out of shape so fucking quickly. Because again, she's only done a few interviews, and they're people who just fucking, agree with her 1,000%. She had David Muir during the debate helping her and all that other shit. So finally sits down in enemy territory. And I like Bret Baier because he kind of kept the hammer to the... anyways, check out her... I can't say that because we're at the beginning of the show. Her fucking snobby, asshole, arrogant, liberal attitude. Go ahead.
The first bill, practically within hours of taking the oath, was a bill to fix our immigration system.
Yes, ma'am. It was called the U.S. Citizenship Act of 2021.
Exactly.
It was essentially a pathway to citizenship for the... Yes, ma'am.
May I finish responding, please?
But
you have to let me finish,
You
please.
had the White House and the House and the Senate,
I'm
and they didn't bring up
I'm
that
responding to the point you're raising,
Okay.
and I'd like to finish.
Yes, ma'am.
First of all, turning
pause.
the page.
Finish. Is she still having a period at age 62? What that tells you everything about her. First of all, that she believes because she's a woman, somehow he's stepping all over her. That's in her DNA. Don't forget, she's a fucking Marxist. That's not hyperbole. She's a fucking Marxist. We actually talked about it with Owen, by the way, and where that comes from. And I am talking. Yeah, you know what? It's my show. It's my show. I'm doing the questioning, and all defensive. That's like the first, I think that was 2 minutes into it. And let's play some more.
From the last decade in which we've been burdened with the kind of rhetoric coming from Donald Trump that has been designed and implemented to divide our country.
Pause. And this is the one that makes me nuts. It's Trump's language and dialogue that's meant to divide the country. I want you to let that sink in. It's Trump's language to divide. Even though they've labeled him Hitler for 8 fucking years, threat to democracy, tried to arrest him on false charges. He's been shot in the face. Joe Biden said the problem with this country is white nationalists and homegrown terrorists, which he meant white people. Catholics were persecuted during COVID. You couldn't go to church. But it's Trump who's dividing. Just let that fucking sink in. She doesn't even believe it, that flared nostril whore. Go ahead.
Have Americans literally point fingers at each other. Rhetoric and an approach to leadership that suggests that the strength of a leader is based on who you beat down instead of what we all know.
Here it comes, what me and Owen talked about. Beat down, bullying, we're the victims, beat down your enemy. No, it's called competition. You're a Marxist, it goes against, you were raised by Marxists, your dad was a Marxist. It goes against everything that you've been taught. That everybody's supposed to, every soccer game ends in a tie, everybody gets a it goes against everything you fucking hate. Trump is as American as apple fucking pie. And they keep going, she has a problem with male voters. No, she has a problem with males, like most girls who vote Democrat. Go ahead.
No. The strength of leadership is based on who you lift up. The strength of an American president, which is one who understands that the vast majority of us have more in common than what separates us.
Madam Vice President, more than 70% of people
that is about turning the page on rhetoric that people are frankly exhausted of, Brett.
More than 70% of people tell...
I'm sorry, and with all due respect, that clip was not what he has been saying about the enemy within that he has repeated.
Pause. The enemy within, you mean the deep state? The one that said that he was a Russian agent and 3-year investigation that divided us, by the way, that found zero evidence of that. 2 impeachments. Are you fucking high? You know what? Enough. I can't even. Watch it, folks. She ended up, her people, he goes, we're getting a hard out. I don't think it was from the Fox people. They wanted her. They always do that, politicians. Well, we'll give you, look over here if you're getting smoked. And she got smoked. And I'll say, anyways.
My vagina's angry.
I'm talking about mine.
It is.
It's pissed off. It's smoking a cigar. All right. Anyways. My guest today, a very funny comedian. He's got a new special out called Must Be Nice. Actually came out a few days ago, actually. People call him a controversial figure as I don't know. I've heard him, and anybody who believes in free speech, like an absolutist, seems to be labeled a psycho. So I don't agree with the assessment, but it's the very funny Owen Benjamin. Owen, how are you?
Dude, thanks for having me, Nick. It's a pleasure. Yeah, that can be controversial, but I end up pissing off everybody, So it is what it is.
Well, you do speak your mind. Excuse me. The only reason I throw that in there is because, like, when I read, you've been kicked off of every platform that was ever invented, fucking ham radio.
AM radio kicked me off. They said they didn't like my humor.
No, but what are they?
No,
go ahead.
No, it's just funny, like that Wikipedia about me, like saying I'm a neo-Nazi. The irony is, like, Nazi guys call me a Jew because I make fun of them because of the fashion and the meth and all that. And so I piss off everybody.
I think they call you a Jew because of your last name.
Yeah. And my dad had a Jew. I got some Jew in the wood pile, but it's pretty funny. But dude, you make fun of me really well. That's one reason why I really want to be on your show. Like, calling me a hack piano comic made me laugh super hard.
Well,
that's true. Like, that's funny.
Well, it's not true. But let's be honest. That was a retort after you call me a fucking sellout. Anybody you disagree, here's your problem. Let me help you. Okay?
Yeah.
Here's some career advice. Not that you should be taking it from me, but because I have a lot of you in me where I sort of learned to fucking tone it down. Like when you asked a few weeks ago about coming on here, I said no. It had nothing to do with your persona, what you say. I have my biggest road trip coming up, and I just said, I didn't even hear the part about your special. I just said, no, I can't do it. And I guess that you immediately took that as he's a fucking pussy. He says he's a free speech guy. And you can't fucking be calling me a pussy online without me going, making fun of your piano skills.
I publicly apologize because I was wrong. And two, it's funny though. There's something about a comic where if you're not doing good and you can hop on a piano, like Nick Swartzen, who was one of my best friends in LA, used to say that I could put a piano under my arm like a crutch. And it's funny. Like, no, I mean, I know I'm a good comic, but what you said made me laugh. Because I'm so used to people lying about me that when you just did a joke set in reality, I found it very refreshing.
Well, again, that shit never comes up unless somebody's lambasting me and fucking. It just seems like every time, I don't know, a guy like me or somebody doesn't agree with you. I don't even know what it is, but you sort of label us a sellout. We're doing it for the lollipops and money, whatever the fucking quote was.
Lollipops and fancy pants.
Well, I've never owned fancy pants in my life, but
no, it's not disagree. I mean, I disagree with myself halfway through some of my streams. It's like it's when people pretend I'm like dangerous and they know I just talk shit. I mean, I used to be a heckler at a Renaissance festival where people threw tomatoes at my face. So like, I'm not to be taken super seriously. And so when people are like, he's unhinged, he lost his mind, I'm like, okay. But you not responding, I did publicly apologize because I was told during a stream, oh, DiPaolo won't get back to me, blah, blah, blah. And I just reacted. And then when you responded, I was like, oh, he's not a sellout. He's probably just busy. But I'm sure he likes lollipops.
I do like lollipops. I like them in a paper bag when I'm looking into a elementary school and I'm wearing a overcoat. But again, am I wrong to want to make a living?
No.
And make a comfortable living. And I know you're busting my balls about being on Louder with Crowder and shit. But my only argument to that is, at least on that show, to me, first of all, I agree. I'm not as conservative as Steven or a lot of people. You get labeled that in show business. I've always said this. If you have, out of 100 issues, if you lean fucking right on 2 of them, you're a fucking Nazi as far as showbiz industry concerned. So I've been dealing with this before you probably even started comedy. You're probably 20 years younger than me. So I sort of know what you're facing, but you've dropped the N-bomb and fucking, haven't you? I mean, didn't that really?
Yeah, constantly.
Now that makes perfect sense why he's living in Washington State. There's a lot of fucking groups up there practicing. And if I could, I don't even think they'll have Italians in, but I would try to sign up tomorrow. But don't you see, my point is, I guess, I've been trying to walk that fine line and if I knew if I outwardly said the N-word on stage, it would sap. This is when I had my foot in legitimate show business. I don't know what we call what we're doing today, but you know what I mean? So, but my point is, I would try to walk that line. That way, I wouldn't get fucking, completely, as they call it, canceled. We didn't have a term for it back then. You have to be out there. Like, we need you out there on a lot of platforms, and sometimes you could sabotage yourself, and then we're short a guy on our team.
Right, yeah, and just for the record, like, you being on Crowder, I think is fine. Like, I've always said Crowder's like one of the best comedic actors I knew, and I think making a living's great. My thing is just like, if that means you have to pretend someone's crazy when they're funny. But other than that, and you didn't do that. You have me on, it's fine. And so I have complete respect for you doing that. He has a high production quality. He's a professional. It's all good. And as far as walking the line, I get that as well. I can be too much of a berserker. It's like I'll run into a minefield. Like, so what aren't we allowed to do? I'll do all that stuff, you know? And sometimes I'm like, man, I could have roamed the wave a little better. But, you know, my whole thing is like, if a word is bad and a group is a permanent victim, that's communism. And I used to
That's true.
study I studied it in Eastern Europe. I was obsessed with communist takeovers. And one of the things is like a bad word, not a bad intention. Like a gun killed someone, not Tyrone, you know?
Right.
And so that's why I'm like, you know, Solzhenitsyn and all those guys that say the best way to fight communism is just not go along with it. And that'll get you kicked off Venmo and PayPal and all that. But, you know, that's why this new special I did in a hayfield. It's I just wouldn't quit, and I think that people will really like it. It's a funny special. It's in my website.
We'll get to that. We're going to talk about it. But can't you be crazy? I think you just said a minute ago, crazy and funny at the same time. I like people who are a little off kilter, and I put you in that fucking league. I like people who stir the shit. I mean, you're off kilter as far as the establishment's concerned.
Yeah.
I mean, I couldn't believe like the pariah I was about 15 years into my career for doing a couple black jokes at the Comedy Cellar. And I mean, they sat me down and they loved me. The Comedy Cellar owners, I played there every night for like 18 years in New York. And then Manny Dwarman, the owner, who passed away, his son Noam sat me down. And this was about 6-7 years ago before I left New York. And he goes, look, his dad was still alive. I think. He goes, no, his dad was dead. He said, you know, me and my dad love you the way you stick your thumb in the eye of political correctness. He goes, but now you're even making it hard on us because they were getting so much hate. They were getting so much hate mail about me at the Comedy Cellar. And you know what I did? I didn't argue one bit. I go, no, I go, and I meant it because there were nights when I left there, and I know you've probably had these nights where I felt bad how I flipped out on stage. I don't regret it. But I felt bad how I made a table of girls cry.
Dude, you're one of the reasons. Dude, I saw you at the Cellar, and I thought it was one of the best sets I'd ever seen before I even did comedy. I mean, you're like a legend, and so I'm not just buttering you up. It really is, and I know what you're saying. Like, if someone says, like, I can do corporate events, I can do a Mormon. I used to open for Julio Iglesias. It's like I was known. Yeah, like I could do an all Spanish speaking woman.
Really?
You know, like I was always a professional with that, where they're like, listen, don't say these words, don't do this. I'm like, no problem. What the issue I had was the trans kid stuff, where I had this opinion off stage, and then they were like, now you're evil. And I'm like, okay, now I'm just gonna take it all down, because there was no reasoning with them at that point.
Yeah.
And but I don't think, like, if you're a guest in someone's club and they're like, listen, it's a clean club, no problem. But if someone's like, you're an evil person for making fun of black people, but a black guy can make fun of white people, I'm like,
fuck you.
I'm like, listen, I won't drop the hard N. I won't say they're the only people stealing bikes. But then, you know, then don't talk about white people and Britney drinking frappuccinos and stuff.
Right.
I'm like, I need to have rules. Like, I love rules.
Yeah.
It's not like I just like offending. I understand hierarchy. I'm good at like having a leader, you know, where it's like, okay, this guy's got a great plan, unless it becomes total nonsense. And then I'm like, okay, man, then I'm going to say panda bears are fake. We're going to take this to the moon.
Weren't there panda bears in the first moon landing? Or am I combining two?
I'm sure they're there. Yeah. I'm sure they're there.
I know where you're coming from. And like I said, I was so shocked how I was like, ugh. And I would do good on the road sometimes. I would kill at a club. And Rich Miller was my manager at the time. And I go, so when am I going back then? He goes, they don't want you back. And he wouldn't tell me why for years. And then finally one day he called me because he didn't want to work with me anymore because it was happening so much. He goes, they think you're an asshole. I go, well, a lot of people think your brother Dennis is a fucking asshole. But it was about my politics. He didn't want to tell me that. I didn't realize even at the comedy club level, you had left-wing douchebag, which we all know now, obviously, because that generation has filtered down. Now they're running the clubs, the people who were raised on who believe in fucking censorship. So I pick my spots. Luckily, I've been out here long enough where 36 years where the people who come to see me know what's coming, which is such a relief. You know what I mean? For those of you watching me on Mug Club right now, stick around for the rest of the show. The rest of yous, I don't know what you're doing, go to nickdip.com and sign up for Mug Club so you can get my entire show. In other words, the great interview coming up. And also, while you get Steven Crowder's full show. Alex Jones pops in and out, and you get his undercover team. It's well worth it, okay? Also, if you're at nickdip.com, you can click on my button, my tour button. You'll see I'll be in Ottumwa, Iowa, the Bridgeview Center Theater on November 9th. All right? For those of you still sticking around, let's get back to he's got a special. It's called It Must Be Nice. It came out a few days ago. Let's get back with Owen Benjamin.
Hi. Good night, everybody.